I am the founder, CEO, and the largest shareholder of a publicly traded real estate company called Mainstreet Equity. Mainstreet Equity is probably, now I have no way to verify this, probably the biggest South Asian apartment landlord in the world. We have over 1.2 billion in assets, and we've grown approximately by 30% a year, non-dilutively, and we have in excess of right now 8,400 units, which you call flats, residential flats. So it's our portfolio is consistent in Western Canada, which is where all the commodities and all the resources are, which is Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, Saskatoon, and Toronto. And basically we go out there and reposition, develop apartment buildings, and we don't sell, we are building a book. Book means we are building a portfolio. In 2011, which we are really proud of, was the best performing stock, 10th best performing stock on the Toronto Stock Exchange. So one is we are competing with resource-based companies, and for a real estate company to do this tremendous leapfrog, competing with oil and gold, because Canadian exchanges are very much resource-based oriented. So for us to what you call beat out the resource-based oriented companies, for a real estate company was tremendous. And for a South Asian to be the 10th best performing stock in 2011 was a big deal. Indian, South Asian, Indo-Canadian, put any label as you want. So that's who we are. So in terms of institutional real estate company, we are probably among the few, or not the only one, globally outside of India. Okay, so now comes my thesis on real estate in India. Thesis on real estate in India is India has got shortage of affordable housing. Every type of housing, and that's why the prices go up, is not because of our GDP or economy or black money or whatever you want to call it. It goes up because of lack of supply. And you have 26 million lack of housing already, and this is going to compound. And in years to come, it's going to stun the GDP growth of India if you don't provide adequate housing. I.e., for example, no different than infrastructure is right now slowing down the growth of India. No, there's global slowdown, I realize it, but we don't have adequate infrastructure. So when the policy decision makers decide that housing is going to become the top 5 priorities, like infrastructure, whatever other policies are, they're going to open up foreign direct investment into India. And this is such a big developer's dream, big market, and the reasons being is, now I'll come to my thesis. So my thesis is, you have, why is India the developer's dream? Why India is the developer's dream is, one, demographics. 50% under 25, 65% under 35. We don't want to beat that to death. We all know this, right? Second is migration from rural to urban. 3 is, I think, your extended family unit is going to start become nucleus, right? So, like 8 brothers living in one house, those days are gone, and now it's going to be down to maybe just like North America. And not for cultural reasons that the Indian culture is dismantling. The main reason for this is the job opportunity. If she gets a job in Bangalore, she's going to go out there and rent a flat or buy a flat or whatever, or Pune, or wherever the technology is, or media center. So this movement of people which didn't exist. For 7,000 years, people lived in the same village, and now they're getting educated in urban centers, getting medical treatment in urban centers, and they're getting their jobs wherever they can get. So that's rural to in-migration is a bigger thing. Now, bigger aspect from macroeconomics again, is the percentage of your GDP to real estate percentage of your GDP is 5%. It should be around 15 to 30%. So this is a big growth area where the policymakers are going to wake up on what levers are we going to push to make this economy go. Like you've got IT, you got infrastructure, you got auto, whatever it is, right? Industrial thing, agriculture. One of the levers that haven't been utilized is real estate. Like we have seen in the United States how important the real estate industry is to the United States. Direct and indirect employment is tremendous, you know, and mortgage banking hasn't even arrived in India. So how is this going to happen? There are areas where the state government will work closely with developers like this. I see this happening already. And there's areas where the center, which we call federal, New Delhi government, what do you call them? Central government, has got to make some policy changes. So the policy changes at state level is ownership rights, Landlord Tenancy Act, right? And what the central government's got to do, repatriation of capital and direct FDI. So a combination of this, it doesn't have to happen overnight, but if there's light end of the tunnel, and I think the direct investment it will flow. And I think the focus is got to be, the focus can also be tweaked towards middle income housing. We don't need to be focused on the rich people again and the luxury goods and Walmarts of the world. It's just that middle class Indian need housing. And the government would be motivated to deal with foreign direct investment on catering to the middle class Indian, which is in a desperate need.
So for which particular state are you focusing on at present?
And the reason I'm focusing on northern Indian states is because of, I think it's underserviced.
Okay.
For example, Chandigarh area, Haryana maybe. Why am I looking at it? The airport, the new international airport, is going to be a big, tremendous impact.
Right.
80% of Canadians come from northern India. Exactly. 80% Indians come from northern India. Airport, retirement, vacationers, secondary home, going back to the roots, because let's go back to what happened in the last 30, 40 years. What happened in the last 48 years is my father's generation went and migrated to Canada. We call it the 1969 to 72 movement. Trudeau opens the gates, million Indians land up in Canada. Fast forward 30, 40 years, they become prosperous. Even middle class Indian has become prosperous. He's got, a small business, or he's got retirement insurance, whatever. They all have enough money to have secondary homes in northern India and so forth. So I see this as an untapped market that if you can add with institutional capital and brand capability of somebody like myself who's got following in the Canadian market, I see this as a great opportunity. What is my vision, which hasn't not been even, let's be clear, nothing's been done yet, so I don't want to misguide you or mislead. I'm not at the discovery stage. I'm in a step beyond discovery stage, because what has inspired me in Chandigarh over other cities in India is the sheer thrust of demand that's going to come from NRIs.
Okay.
Doesn't matter where you go, from Canada, UK, any parts of developed world where the immigrant population is 70%, 80% northern India. Why you see these mega projects getting built in Pune, Mumbai, Delhi, all over the place, Hyderabad. I see this segment there's an arbitrage that we call within northern India. Himachal's got its own issues about ownership rights and whatnot, so it's very difficult for us to go into the Himachal market. But I think there's an arbitrage between Punjab and Haryana. And it's mainly psychological. And if there's a great opportunity for the Haryana government to capitalize on this airport and the thrust of people.
So with any Indian company you have any type of association?
We are
or you are into some planning phase?
I'm in discussion phase, not a planning phase.
With what companies?
Well, it's too early for me to and there's not one. We're talking to many of them.
Right.
And we may also just do it ourselves. Right? Again, it all depends on the policymakers of India on foreign direct investment and so forth. Have we acquired anything yet? The answer is no.
Okay.
Would we like to? The answer is yes.
Okay.
Would we like to position ourselves? No. I would like to capitalize on this recession. I would like to capitalize on the change on FDI policy. The retail is done. I think real estate, that is kind of in, next step would be logic, would be real estate.
Right.
So I should be, I would like to be ahead of the curve on these issues.
Okay, so like you are investing in Haryana. So according to you, what are the main
I'm looking at
attractions?
North India
North India.
as
No,
Haryana.
right now we are talking about this project.
As Haryana has been one of our top top opportunity.
So according to you, what are the main attractions for developers in Haryana?
Okay. One of the great opportunities for the state of Haryana, again, is the new airport that's opening up. Okay. It has got, there's an arbitrage in land value between Punjab and Haryana, right? The way Haryana has positioned itself, and they have a successful case study or a business model, which is the state of Gurgaon, or city of Gurgaon, sorry. And city of Gurgaon Haryana government has realized, now I'm paraphrasing and I'm, I'm, I'm paraphrasing and I'm just going into the mind of Haryana government, but it's based on logic, not based on discussion. So let me be clear on this. And based on logic is they have seen the power of real estate. And the power of real estate is the city of Gurgaon. What has Gurgaon done for tax revenues and the economy and the GDP of the state of Haryana? Now they can replicate that power center in right beside the airport in northern India. They would be more inclined to do that than any other state government because they've already had a successful case study, which is Gurgaon. So that's why I'm in process of discussion with the government, process of discussion with the Haryana state government, as that's why you're here, on saying replicating the success of Gurgaon, but in residential and possibly commercial. And what are the key drivers? Population is all North Indian. 2, the airport that's opening up. 3, the aging demographics of the NRIs who are living there.
And what are the policies of the government which are making it the attractive destination?
I'm hoping the government will make some policy changes to make it attractive. I'll repeat, I'm hoping the government will make it attractive. What are the things that we need? To be very precise. Foreign direct investment for institutional capital.
Okay.
2, ownership rights. 3, repatriation of capital. 4, Landlord Tenancy Act. And most important, ownership rights. Ownership rights, like your land title system, goes back to the days of Akbar the Great. It's a very archaic system of land title system you have, right? Which has to be changed. At least on certain areas, it has to be changed at a state level or city level or whatever. And all the permits and zonings has to be one. You gotta have for institutional capital one-stop, extra milk please, one-stop shop. So okay, I'm going to invest X amount of money. I'm going to build a township here. I'm going to attract foreign residents. I'm going to invest. It's going to be medical tourism. It's going to be retirement homes. It's going to be extended stay vacationers. It's going to be a big gamut, right? But I want one-stop shopping on my approval process.
And what's the size of investment?
It is, you know what, that's a very difficult question. But for a company of our size to come here, it would be a long-term project. It's not, I'm coming here as a portfolio manager to invest some money in the stock and ride the cycle and run away. This is a 10-year commitment. This is a lifelong commitment for us to get into the real estate business, because real estate is a long-term investment. And for us to do anything on a leverage basis or equity leverage basis, anything less than $1 billion is a waste of our time, right? Now, again, I would like to clarify, is that going to be an initial investment? The answer is no.
Okay.
Right? We're going to slowly tread into this
All right.
phase. But I am the success of Gurgaon and success of the success of Gurgaon and the pro-business attitude of the Haryana government and pro-Haryana's attitude on foreign direct investment and the international airport and the demographic shift in North America, especially Canada, of Northern Indians. I think this is a great opportunity as a developer, and also Indian demographics. Indian demographics are the best in the world. You're going to have the biggest consumer market, despite all the challenges in policies and government and infrastructure and all the other things that we don't want to discuss here. Despite all that, India is going to grow at 5 to 8% a year because of your demographics. You're the biggest consumer market in the world. You're going to hit it out of the park. It's, like maybe, in cricket, you hit the ball outside. It's kind of an expression. You're going to hit it out of the park. It's going to be a success. The question is, how much of a success can you make this country be? Are you going to make the leapfrog to first world status? You're going to turn it into a Shanghai? That's up to you. And I think the policy changes now. I don't want to go into politics, and I don't understand it, and I don't want to understand politics. But I think the changes are going to come from bottom up. When you have this kind of demographic thrust, if you look at the history of human race, this kind of democratic thrust between there's going to be bottom up policy changes where young people under the age of 35 are going to say, "This is my India. This is how I want to run my India." So, it's a global village. Foreign direct investment is not a bad thing. If you want to export and you want to export your IT services, website, and if you bring in foreign capital to develop this country, it's not a bad thing. It's we have to make a decision as Indians. Are we part of this global village, and are we going to interact with the world and capital market sources? And also, are we going to be reactive in thinking? Reactive in thinking is, let's wait 15 years, and then we hit a crisis in housing, and then we'll change our policy, or be proactive. 50% of the population under the age of 25 need housing. How are we going to find them housing? Is anybody thinking about it? Is there a discussion on it? I don't know. That's it. Discussion stages. Discussion stages, process of discussing with government officials, process of what you call looking at opportunities, so forth. I'll be back in January to, that's a big commitment, coming back once a month to India. I was here a few months ago. I came with the Prime Minister of Canada as his official delegate, and now I'm coming back on December 26th. That's like 3 trips in less than 6 months.
Right.
It's in discussion. You're trying to get something out of me that I don't have the answer to. There is, like I said, it's a discussion process. So because of the discussion process, the only investment that's being sought costs, so which is insignificant. The point of this project is I'm hoping to get green light after my discussions with the Haryana government on designing a world-class destination for multifaceted residential, possibly commercial township.
Tentatively, when you will be planning to complete this thing?
It all depends on the government. It all depends.
In case if you got the green signal from Haryana.
Oh, if
how much time will you take to?
24 hours. It's as soon the holdback is not me. The market is there. So this is, like I said, it's a real estate developer's dream market. So the opportunity exists. The question is India ready for foreign direct investment?
Right.
Is India ready for changing the Landlord Tenancy Act? Is India ready to change repatriation of capital? Is India willing to guarantee ownership rights? Now, tell me something. This is just, it's very difficult to invest if you don't have the security of investment.
Exactly.
We have technology in developed countries, which are, because our real estate industry is very mature, everything from green technology to prefab technology, so we don't have to depend on the archaic ways of developing residential properties. There is a lot of technology that can also be brought into India, but not only for the rich and the elite, right? So it doesn't have to be just for the 1/10 of 1% of the population. This is catered to the masses. I'm pushing eco-friendly system because let's face it, India is not exactly a world leader in green technology. At least not incorporating technology may be exported out because of the massive engineering population. But I think the future of our planet is being, if we don't go take these even baby steps on green technology, I think we're going to be in trouble. For simple things like shortage of water in India, that's a major thing. You have power cuts everywhere. That's a major thing. So these are just basic one-on-one things that we have to focus on.
You see, our focus is the basic focus in Haryana is infrastructure, and FDI role is a very big role in India in coming days, and we have to be taken care of how the FDI will be in a comfortable position to invest in India as well as in Haryana. We mean to say that, and you see, Haryana is basically don't have any type of resources. We build up the infrastructure because it's 0 kilometer from the capital of India, and we have built that all zone kind of you can say NCR, and that is the why the Gurgaon is face of India, not face of Haryana, it's face of India for the multinational companies. That is the basic point. And our growth rate is, you can understand, when our government came into power in 2005, our planned budget was 2,200 crores. And now it is 26,500 crores. This 13 times. You can understand about the development and the growth rate of Haryana. And we are number one. That is why we are number one. We are number one in milk production. Punjab was number one before that. And wheat productivity, we are number one. In FDI investment, we are number one in the bigger states. I'm lefting about the Goa, it's a small state. And you can say in wages, we are paying the maximum wages in India. That is a basic point of Haryana. That is why I feel so the FDI investment will be more comfortable in Haryana as well as in other states. You want to add?
Yes, it's Haryana government is making the right approaches for foreign direct investment. A great example is right now they're approaching us, and that makes the foreign direct investment is very comfortable. So the question I would ask is, like I told you earlier, is they have a successful case study, Gurgaon, and the successful case study is how much foreign direct investment came to generate tax revenue, job growth, and etc. So when somebody already has a successful case study, it's very easy to replicate it. They said, okay, this was success. We know it'll be success, right? Infrastructure is a need. What grows economy, what grows the GDP is they already know. If the government doesn't have the vision, we don't want to be there. The present government of Haryana has the vision, and they realize the importance of foreign direct investment.
And you met the Chief Minister
Yes.
in the last visit when you will be here.
Yes, and I'm hoping to visit him on my next visit. This time my tip is short.
Because our Chief Minister Bhupinder Singh Hooda is having a visionary approach how to develop the basic points in education, in kind of a infrastructure, in kind of a poor people, how to build up. And he is basically a farmer-friendly Chief Minister. That is why our farmers very happy about the land acquisition. There's no problem because our policy of land acquisition is the best policy in India, the best policy in India, because we are giving the best price, best market values, and they are very happy about that because our farms are very resourceful now. And that is why we are number one. We are in wheat productivity, in milk production, in growth rate, in infrastructure. These are the things can be added into. Because Haryana is a small state. We had a population of only 2.5% of Indian population is a 3 crore approx. kind of 2.5 or 3 crores. So that is basic reasons we are developing because of the infrastructure is next to the capital of India. That's basic reasons we are developing that. And as well as when this government came, the law and order situation is out of reach before that. Now it's totally into control, and that is why he's totally taking care of the industries, and we are developing kind of a Manesar. Manesar is the best industrial zone in his leadership in India. That is why the industry is coming. We don't have a land basically, but we are providing the land to the MNCs to develop over here, to come over here. No, for cities, basically we are focusing the whole Haryana, but where the reach is there, because we need airport, we need cargo kind of a thing, so that connectivity is there, and we are developing that. So that is why we are approaching Manesar. There's so many in Rai area is there, industrial zone, and the different zones are there. The whole Haryana is coming into the industrial zone and part. Even now, we are not even touching 1% of the land, total land of Haryana, to be converted into industrial zone. And when it will be converted, you can understand how the growth rate will be.
For example, simple thing about utilizing a foreign direct investment. Let's say that's a very vague word. And you've already heard this, it's beat to death, but I'll repeat it. 70% of your food crops go to waste because of you don't have the adequate warehousing, technology, capital, and production. So this country that is farmer friendly is wasting 70% of your product. So farmer grows it, and you go through the whole cycle of thing, but it gets wasted again. So it's not only residential housing. You need technology. You need adequate, part of infrastructure is, if you don't have real estate infrastructure to feed the infrastructure, what good is building roads without cars? It's the same thing. So these real estate is a necessity part of the growth of your GDP. Otherwise, it's going to stun the growth of India.
You see, he developed the real estate in Canada in a different way. You must be aware of that. But the focusing of that, the direct trade with Canada is not very much. It's only a $5 billion. That's all. And Canada is having the biggest resources in the world. And now the Prime Minister, he has come with this Prime Minister last time also and this time also, and looking after the trade practices, how to develop the trade with India. To be a direct kind of a trade, so 5 billion is nothing. We have to reach up to the 20 billion, 100 billions, that will be there. So now the trade will be started, and I'm very happy when one of the Indian origin, the roots are from India, is looking after trade from Canada to India. That is there. That is a plus point for us, and I'm happy for that. And the Bob Dhillon is taking care of all these things.
We announced the negotiation of the free trade agreement with Canada and India. Now, obviously, this has not been completed yet, but that's in the works. And that impact of that is going to be, again, increase in your GDP. Obviously. Is we have India imports 50% of the oil. And I don't know if you know this or not, Alberta, the state I belong to, has the third largest deposit of heavy crude oil in the world. Third largest. And that's, so not only you need to import oil, you also need oil technology. We are we're the richest country in resources. We are in the process of signing the nuclear pact. There's going to be opportunities in nuclear technology, uranium, potash, and the list just goes on. Canada is one of the world's biggest producers of gold, and one of the world's biggest consumers of gold. So the trade hasn't even started. It's at ground zero. And the sad part is, the biggest diaspora population in the world per percentage is in Canada. We have 4% of Canadian population is from Indian origin. The official language in some of these places when you land at International Airport in Vancouver is Punjabi. That's the official language. The official language at the airport in New Delhi is not Punjabi, but in Vancouver it is. Isn't that funny? We have
So
Indian.
what developments are you thinking for your Barnala?
That's all philanthropy.
Okay.
That's all philanthropy. I have targeted. I have targeted Haryana as an arbitrage opportunity. I see one of the key drivers, catalyst drivers, are the new international airport, the demographics in India, and the demographics is Canada. And I see this as a great opportunity that nobody's focused on. And more importantly, the government of Haryana has a successful case study on real estate, which is Gurgaon. I beat this to death, but I think they have a very successful case study where they say, okay, this is a direct correlation to GDP.
Okay.
Foreign direct investment, real estate is direct correlation. Now, I mentioned this to you earlier. India's GDP to real estate is 5%. It should be 20 to 30%, right? So what does that correlate to your GDP? Does it move from 5% overall right now? Would it move 1% just opening up foreign direct investment and give ownership rights and tweaking the Landlord Tenancy Act and repatriation of capital? Will that move your GDP just on that magic wand of change in policy? You know, this is something we're... And another interesting case study that I'm going to be discussing with Mr. Bhatia later on today. What is the real estate GDP of Haryana? Now, did Haryana state GDP become the number?
For cities, basically we are focusing the whole Haryana. But where the reach is there, because we need airport, we need cargo kind of a thing, so that connectivity is there, and we are developing that. So that is why we are approaching Manesar. There's so many in Rai area is there, industrial zone, and the different zones are there. The whole Haryana is coming into the industrial zone and part. Even now, we are not even touching 1% of the land, total land of Haryana, to be converted into industrial zone. And when it will be converted, you can understand how the growth rate will be.
For example, simple thing about utilizing a foreign direct investment. Let's say that's a very vague word. And you've already heard this, it's beat to death, but I'll repeat it. 70% of your food crops go to waste because of you don't have the adequate warehousing, technology, capital, and production. So this country that is farmer friendly is wasting 70% of your product. So farmer grows it, and you go through the whole cycle of things, but it gets wasted again. So it's not only residential housing. You need technology. You need adequate, part of infrastructure is, if you don't have real estate infrastructure to feed the infrastructure, what good is building roads without cars? You know, it's the same thing. So these are, real estate is a necessity part of the growth of your GDP. Otherwise, it's going to stun the growth of India.
You see, he developed the real estate in Canada in a different way. You must be aware of that. But the focusing of that, the direct trade with Canada is not very much. It's only a $5 billion. That's all. And Canada is having the biggest resources in the world. And now the Prime Minister, he has come with this Prime Minister last time also and this time also, and looking after the trade practices, how to develop the trade with India. To be a direct kind of a trade, so 5 billion is nothing. We have to reach up to the 20 billion, 100 billions, that will be there. So now the trade will be started, and I'm very happy when one of the Indian origin, the roots are from India, is looking after trade from Canada to India. That is there. That is a plus point for us, and I'm happy for that. And the Bob Dhillon is taking care of all these things.
We announced the negotiation of the free trade agreement with Canada and India. Now, obviously, this has not been completed yet, but that's in the works. And that impact of that is going to be, again, increase in your GDP. Obviously. Is we have India imports 50% of the oil. And I don't know if you know this or not, Alberta, the state I belong to, has the third largest deposit of heavy crude oil in the world. Third largest. And that's so not only you need to import oil, you also need oil technology. We're the richest country in resources. We are in process of signing the nuclear pact. There's going to be opportunities in nuclear technology, uranium, potash, and the list just goes on. Canada is one of the world's biggest producers of gold, and you're one of the world's biggest consumers of gold. So the trade hasn't even started. It's at ground zero. And the sad part is, the biggest diaspora population in the world per percentage is in Canada. We have 4% of Canadian population is from Indian origin. The official language in some of these places, when you land at International Airport in Vancouver, is Punjabi. That's the official language. The official language at the airport in New Delhi is not Punjabi, but in Vancouver it is. Isn't that funny? We have Indian.
What developments are you thinking for your Barnala?
That's all philanthropy. That's all philanthropy. I have targeted Haryana as an arbitrage opportunity. I see one of the key drivers, catalyst drivers, are the new international airport, the demographics in India, and the demographics is Canada. And I see this as a great opportunity that nobody's focused on. And more importantly, the government of Haryana has a successful case study on real estate, which is Gurgaon. I beat this to death, but I think they have a very successful case study where they say, okay, this is a direct correlation to GDP. Foreign direct investment, real estate is direct correlation. Now, I mentioned this to you earlier. India's GDP to real estate is 5%. It should be 20 to 30%, right? So what does that correlate to your GDP? Does it move from 5% overall right now? Would it move 1% just opening up foreign direct investment and give ownership rights and tweaking the Landlord Tenancy Act and repatriation of capital? Will that move your GDP just on that magic wand of change in policy? You know, this is something we're... And another interesting case study that I'm going to be discussing with Mr. Bhatia later on today. What is the real estate GDP of Haryana? Now, did Haryana state's GDP become the in what he called in India? Would it be without if you took the real estate component out? What would be the real GDP? That would be an interesting case study actually that Mr. Bhatia should look into. If you take out the real estate GDP out of Haryana state, okay, what is your GDP in Haryana today?
You see, our growth rate is what we are discussing about that. Our growth is starting from the infrastructure point of view. That is why, because we don't have any resources, different resources. We have a land bank we have developed. That is why our farmers getting the maximum price of the land value, and we are paying for that. And our companies, the friendly companies are working over there. They have a kind of very comfortable with the liquidity of the amount. Now the opening of the FDI, what we are looking for, our growth rate will be very, very high after that, because it is access to the capital of India, and it is access to the maximum built-up area of Gurgaon as a millennium city. So that is there. It will be a growth rate. We'll see within.
What's the growth rate of Haryana in 2011?
Oh, that is there.
GDP.
We have touched the growth rate of our growth rate was 11% before that. Now we are just because of the we are comfortable with 7 to 8% right now.
So even my question is, out of the 8% GDP growth of state of Haryana, what percentage would the growth rate be without real estate of Gurgaon? That's my question. And if you correlate that number, it'd be an interesting case study for you journalists. The importance of real estate, and we know the answers because all the developing countries, including China, one of the pillars of the economy is real estate GDP. And that has not been capitalized by Indian government But if any state that's going to capitalize it is going to be the state of Haryana because they have a successful case study, which is Gurgaon.
You see, what we had discussed before about that, they are looking for the FDI investments. It is a part of we have an international airport over there in Delhi. It's next to 0 kilometer from Gurgaon, or you can say Haryana border. And next airport is coming to Chandigarh. That will be converted into international airport. That is the best area to be developed for that, because most of the generated Punjabis are from Punjab, or you can say from Haryana or from Delhi or from the nearby states. They are landing here on a 70% because they are already based in Canada. And Canadian side, they are covering in American areas, they are covering, and all Europe, they are already developed. So that is why he's looking for that. And we had already discussed about that. They're ready to come out with a $1 million investments, which started with 100 million. That's the basic points, and that is why he's here for that to look for.
And I'm coming back on December 26th to spend another 10 days here to continue the momentum going with the government of Haryana.